Bride breaks silence after learning groom's family sold their car to pay for the wedding. The morning sun spilled through the cracked blinds, dappling the cozy living room with its soft glow. Emily's hands trembled as she gripped her phone, heart pounding like a drum in her chest. The voice on the other end was cold, clipped, a stranger's, but one who knew too much. The vintage Mustang, her pride and joy. The shining red beast that she'd polished like a treasure every weekend was gone. Sold. Overnight. To cover the wedding bills that James's family refused to pay. Emily's breath caught. Sold. That wasn't just a car. It was her freedom, her story. A symbol of every late night she spent chasing dreams on endless asphalt. The thunderous roar of that engine, the smell of worn leather and burning rubber, vanished. Traded like a trinket to mask an impossible debt, and no one told her. No warning, no asking, just a cutthroat deal sealed behind closed doors. Her eyes scanned the room. Walls lined with faded sketches, paint-stained brushes spilled on the floor. The soft tick of the wall clock suddenly loud. James's sweater lay tossed carelessly on the armchair, as if mocking her silence. The cozy house felt colder, denser, as if shadows had crept in with that phone call. She pictured the phone again. The scratchy voice explained how the family bank accounts had strained under the weight of flowers, limos, extravagant catering, and when bills piled up, the Mustang became collateral. Sold to an unknown buyer, disappeared like a ghost. Emily's chest tightened, her mind raced, scouring memories for signs, for anything that hinted James was involved, or worse, trapped. Had he given up? Was he hiding behind his family's wealth and their suffocating demands? She swallowed the lump thick in her throat. The Mustang wasn't just metal and rubber. It was a statement of who she was. Now it was. Or was it another casualty buried under a mountain of designer invitations and overpriced champagne? The street outside whispered with life, kids laughing, neighbors chatting. But inside, Emily felt alone in a storm. She watched the clock tick. 3 days until the wedding. 3 days to face James, to crack open the silence between them, to demand the truth hidden beneath the glitz and promises. Her hands curled into fists at her sides. A sudden knock at the door broke the silence. The voice behind it wasn't James's. It was a messenger, bearing more secrets, no doubt. Her breath hitched. The countdown had begun. Was this just the beginning of the fallout, or the moment everything would shatter for good? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content that's coming. And since you're there, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. The knock came again, harder this time. Emily's breath caught. She pressed her palm against the door, heart hammering, loud enough to drown out the street's chatter. The messenger's voice outside was muffled, tight. She opened the door cautiously. A woman stood there, shivering despite the afternoon warmth, eyes wide and wild with something like panic. Her hands clutched a crumpled envelope, soaked around the edges, stained with dirt, or about the Mustang. Emily blinked, confusion mixing with a surge of hope. Could this be the key to the truth? Please, you have to listen. The woman stepped inside without waiting. Emily closed the door, the sudden slam ringing in the quiet house. The woman unfolded the envelope, trembling, and pulled out a set of photographs. Emily leaned forward. The first one showed James, but not as she knew him. He stood beside a man she didn't recognize, surrounded by a group that looked rough. The photo was grainy, taken in a dim garage. The second picture made her stomach drop. The same Mustang, smashed, lying crumpled against a fence, paint scraped and dented deep. Her hands shook. What is this? The woman swallowed hard. It's not just the car. James's family, they've been hiding things. The debts, the wedding bills, they're only the surface. James isn't the guy you think he is. That Mustang wasn't just a car to him. It was tied up in something else. Debt collectors, dangerous people. Emily's chest tightened like a vice. She looked at the pictures again. The Mustang, wrecked. James with those men in shadows. Fear lanced through her veins, sharp and cold. Why didn't he tell me? The woman's eyes flicked to the staircase, voice dropping. Because he's scared. His family? They're involved in things you can't imagine. The sale of your car? That was a payoff to keep those people quiet. But it's only the beginning. Emily felt the room tilt. Suddenly everything made twisted sense. The lies, the silence, the pressure. James wasn't just hiding behind his family's money. He was trapped, or worse, involved. She wanted to scream, to run, to sob. But the woman wasn't finished. There's one more thing. The woman hesitated, then pulled a folded paper from inside her jacket. This was left for you. I don't know what you'll do with it, but you deserve to see the truth. Emily unfolded it carefully. Her fingers trembled as she read the scrawled words. It was a confession, James's handwriting. A shock so raw it felt like a punch to the gut. I lied. The Mustang wasn't just paid off. I crashed it. On purpose. My debts I made to keep us safe. But I'm scared. Because someone's been watching. And they know. Emily's legs weakened. The walls seemed to close in. The air thick with dread. The man she thought she was about to marry wasn't just hiding money troubles. He was running from something far darker. Something deadly. The knock at the door sounded again. Urgent, urgent. And this time, behind it, was not a stranger, but James himself. His face in the crack of light was pale, sunken, eyes haunted. Emily, he said, voice trembling. There's no time. You need to know everything before it's too late. Her breath hitched, terror mixing with heartbreak. The countdown to the wedding was over. Now was the real reckoning. But the question throbbed in her chest louder than anything else. Who was James really? And how far would he go to keep his secrets buried? The door stood between them. Between truth and lies, between love and disaster. Emily reached for the handle. Her hands burned. The world held its breath. Emily's hand trembled as she gripped the door handle, heart racing. James stood there, eyes wide with urgency, shadows under his gaze. Tension crackled in the air. Emily, he pleaded, voice shaky. We need to talk. Suddenly, the sound of a screeching tire pierced the stillness outside. Emily's head snapped toward the window, just as a black SUV skidded to a halt at the curb. The door flung open, and a man in a dark suit jumped out, a sinister glint in his eyes. He was shouting something, but the words were drowned by Emily's own heartbeat hammering in her ears. James, who's that? She stammered, staring at the newcomer. Fear pooled in her stomach. I don't know, James stuttered, glancing back at the man, panic washing over his features. Emily, we have to get out of here. The urgency in his voice sent a jolt through her. Before she could respond, a loud bang echoed from outside, like a gunshot. Emily froze, eyes darting from James to the figure outside. Faint screams sliced through the air. "Go!" James shouted, yanking her arm. "We need to leave now!" Just then, the man in the suit pointed directly at their house. "There he is!" His voice boomed, filled with anger and something darker. Emily's breath hitched. "James!" she gasped. James's expression shifted. His skin paled as realization struck. "They found me," he whispered, terror clawing at his voice. With a sudden burst of clarity, the truth she'd avoided rushed back. The Get, the Mustang, the shadows of secrecy hanging over him. But it wasn't just about money. It was worse than she ever imagined. The figure from the SUV charged up the steps. Emily's instincts kicked in. She grabbed James's hand, and they rushed towards the kitchen door. The man called out again, but this time his voice was laced with desperation. "James, you can't run from this!" They stumbled into the kitchen, hearts racing, when Emily heard the sound of heavy footsteps behind them. "What are we going to do?" she cried, panic setting in. "What does he want?" I thought it was over," James breathed, face twisting in anguish. "I thought I could protect you." "Protect me from what?" she pressed, trying to keep her voice steady. "What did you get involved in?" He hesitated, eyes flickering with pain. "It's not just the debts, Emily. It's the life. My family, they've done things, bad things." Before she could reply, an explosion of glass shattered the kitchen window. The man from the SUV was in the yard now, storming closer. "What do we do?" Emily shrieked, adrenaline surging. She grabbed a knife from the counter, the weight heavy in her hand. But was it really protection? Suddenly, the man's voice rang out again, sharp with authority. "Stop right there! You think you can just walk away?" "James!" Emily shouted, fear clawing at her insides. "Talk to him! What do we do?" He turned to her, desperation in his gaze. "I didn't expect this. I thought we could just start fresh. I didn't want you to be a part of it." Then, to her utter disbelief, James pushed her behind him, eyes wild. "Stay back!" he yelled at the intruder. "You don't have to do this!" Words hung suspended in the air. The man in the suit stopped, confusion flashing across his face. "James, you need to listen. It's not what you think." "What do you mean?" James fired back. But before he could react further, the man pulled something from his jacket, a small black object that might have been a detonator. "Do you think this is a game?" he snarled, stepping forward. Emily's blood ran cold. The world around them seemed to freeze. Heart thudding heavily, thoughts collided. Nothing made sense anymore. James wasn't just in trouble. He was somehow at the center of something monumental, something life-threatening. And then, shock rippled through her. The man looked directly at her, a knowing smile creeping on his face. "It's about time you knew the truth, Emily," he said, voice dripping with malice. "Everyone's in on it, even you." Her breath caught in her throat. Reality twisted. "Everyone?" she echoed, feeling the ground fall away beneath her. In that moment, everything changed. Relationships shattered. Trust crumbled. The man raised the device. And for a heartbeat, the air pulsed thick with dread. "Your time to choose is up," he said softly, eyes glinting like steel. Emily turned to James, confusion and anger swirling within her. "What do you mean, I'm Eonness?" But before she could process, a dreadful explosion rocked their world. And everything went black. The explosion rocked the house. A shockwave of heat and sound that slammed Emily and James against the wall. Debris rained down around them, the world narrowing into a dizzying whirl of chaos. Smoke filled the air, choking and thick. Emily gasped, struggling to breathe, but her heart thudded louder than the chaos around her. "James!" she screamed, panic clawing at her throat. Her eyes searched for him. He was on the floor, curled in on himself, eyes wide with terror. The man outside was gone, swallowed by the aftermath of the blast. Emily felt a rush of adrenaline, fear mixed with a fierce need to protect him. She crawled over to him, shaking him. "Wake up! We need to get out of here!" His eyes flickered, yet he didn't respond. She grabbed his shoulders, trying to pull him up. "We can't stay here! Come on!" But as she pulled, she noticed something glimmer beneath a layer of glass. Something shiny, metallic. Her heart raced as she turned. A detonator? Had he really just aimed it at them? James finally jolted back to life, his expression shifting from shock to horror. "They're coming! We have to go now!" He scrambled to his feet, and together they rushed toward the back door, the house still trembling around them. With one swift motion, he flung the door open. Instead of the safe backyard, a group of suited men stormed in, faces twisted with anger. They moved like wolves, eyes locked on James. "There he is!" one shouted, lunging forward. Emily held tight to James's arm, feeling the tension thrumming between them. But then, in a heart-stopping moment, a different sound cut through the chaos. A high-pitched whir, like a drone. They turned, eyes wide, as a small black object zoomed through the shattered window. In seconds, it landed in the middle of their kitchen and exploded with a blinding flash. Emily stumbled back, gripping James's arm tighter. But as the smoke cleared, they found themselves face to face with a figure they never expected to see. It was her brother, Liam. "Get down!" he shouted, diving into the room like a superhero. In his hand, he held what looked like a remote control. James's face twisted in disbelief. "Liam, why are you here?" Liam's expression was grim, face set in stone. "Because you've dragged her into a world that isn't yours anymore, James. I thought it was over. I thought I put an end to this." Emily's mind raced. She never knew her brother was involved in something like this. "And what? Liam, what's happening?" She could hardly speak. Her heart hammered. "We're in deep, Em. Deeper than you realize. James, he's gotten mixed up with dangerous people." Liam's voice trembled, but his eyes burned with resolve. James took a step forward. "I wanted to protect her. I didn't want any of this." "Protect her? You sold her car to pay off your debts," Liam shot back, ire flashing in his eyes. "And you didn't think she deserved the truth?" "I was trying to keep her safe," James's voice cracked. The weight of everything crashing down on him. But it was too late. The men in suits were recovering, moving toward them with purpose. "You can't hide, James," one barked. "We'll make sure you pay for this." "Pay?" James echoed, disbelief mingling with fear. For a heartbeat, Emily stood frozen, understanding crashing over her like a wave. The secrets, the lies, all of it. James' family wasn't just in debt. They were entangled in something terrifying that stretched far beyond her comprehension. "Get out! Now!" Liam shouted, snapping her from her thoughts. With a violent pull, he yanked Emily and James behind him, pushing them toward the back door. But just as they were about to escape, a gunshot rang out, exploding against the wall beside them. Emily screamed, heart racing as she stumbled backward. "No!" she cried. James turned sharply, eyes wide with fear and anger. "What have you done?" But Liam, eyes resolute, grabbed James by the collar. "You brought this upon yourself. You're not just a victim here. You need to own up." The men surged forward, confusion and rage igniting their movements. Emily felt the world spiral again, the lines between hero and villain blurring in front of her. Who was she meant to trust? With their paths twisting and spiraling out of control, Emily realized the truth. There was no escaping the web they were caught in. The stakes were higher than ever, and she questioned everything she believed. Just then, another explosion rocked the house, and the floor beneath them started to collapse. Emily grabbed James's hand, pulling him toward the fading exit. Time seemed to freeze. "Liam!" she shouted, her heart breaking. "You can't leave us!" But as she turned, the real shock hit her, gutting her like a dagger. Liam's face twisted in anguish. "You don't understand. What I did, I never wanted this for you." Before she could process his words, the room imploded, and everything went dark once more. In that moment, Emily wasn't just facing an uncertain future. She was standing on the edge of a revelation that would change everything she thought she knew about love, loyalty, and sacrifice. And as the darkness swallowed her whole, all she felt was fear and one burning question. What had been left in the ashes of their shattered lives? The explosion rocked the house, a shockwave of heat and sound that threw Emily and James against the wall. Debris rained down around them, the air thick with smoke. Emily gasped, struggling to breathe, her heart racing in her chest like a runaway train. "James!" she screamed, fear pulling at her throat as she searched the room for him. He was on the floor, curled up, eyes wide with shock and terror. "Get up!" she urged, shaking him. "We need to move." His eyes blinked with dawning comprehension, but he didn't budge. What happened?" he stammered, disoriented. "Time to go!" she cried, adrenaline surging through her. She grabbed his arm, her grip fierce, as she half-dragged him toward the back door. The cacophony of collapse vibrated against their skin, and the sound of footsteps crunching glass echoed like a warning. They stumbled through the kitchen, the heat enveloping them, but just as hope flickered in her chest, the sound of shouting reached them. A group of men in dark suits burst through the front door, their faces twisted with anger. One leapt toward them, finger twitching near a weapon. "Stop!" he shouted, voice laced with authority. "You can't escape!" "Move!" James yelled, yanking her behind him. His eyes were wild, panic fueling his every move. That's when Emily felt it. The air crackled with danger, pressure building like a storm about to erupt. "James!" she gasped, desperation clawing at her voice. "What do we do?" "I didn't mean for this," he cried, words spilling out. "I thought I could handle it." The door slammed open, revealing Liam, her brother, charging in with a remote control clutched in his hand. "Get down!" he shouted, his tone sharp with urgency. Her heart soared at the sight of him, relief mixing with fear. "Liam, you shouldn't be here." But his eyes were focused on James, filled with intensity. "You've dragged her into this mess, haven't you? You can't shield her from the truth anymore." James's expression twisted. "I never meant for any of this, Liam." "Intention doesn't change what's happening," Liam said, voice breaking. "You don't know who you're up against." Then, just as the intruders regained their composure, the front door burst open once more. This time, it wasn't just any man. It was the man from the suit, walking in slowly, his whole demeanor letched with confidence and malice. "You think you can hide, James?" he sneered. "Your family's debts have caught up to you, and it's time to pay the price." A knot formed in Emily's stomach. It was like the world shrank around her, everything narrowing down to this moment of terror. "What do you want?" she shouted, her voice breaking slightly. "James needs to face what he's done, for his own sake and for yours," the man replied, eyes glinting with menace. Then James stepped forward, tension lighting his features. "I'll do whatever it takes to protect her." His defiance was commendable, but his eyes betrayed the fear that lingered behind his bravado. "No one's immune to consequences, not even you," the man said. He then reached into his jacket, and Emily felt her breath hitch as he pulled out a small device, holding it menacingly. "Let's see how far your loyalty stretches, shall we?" Suddenly, Liam's expression changed, moving from anger to something almost reminiscent of dread. "No, you can't do that," he shouted, eyes wide. Emily's heart raced. "What is he talking about?" she asked, panic edging her voice. And then it hit her, a realization that rocked her entire understanding of reality. Liam turned, facing her. "Emily, you need to know I'm the one who set it all in motion. The debts. The danger. I have ties to them. I thought I could keep you safe by staying away. But they're here to collect, and it's my fault." Before she could wrap her mind around his words, the room drowned in chaos again. The tension snapped, and the dark man lunged towards James. The gunshot rang out loud, splitting the air, causing Emily to gasp as a figure stepped in front of James, taking the bullet meant for him. The world became surreal at that moment. Everything slowed down, her vision clouded as she realized who had taken the hit. It was Liam. "No!" Emily screamed, falling to her knees as he crumpled to the ground, blood spreading across the floor, staining the tiles a deep crimson. The darkness swallowed the space around her as screams echoed in her ears. James dropped to Liam's side, shaking him. "Get up! Please, Liam, don't leave us!" But she could only watch as everything she thought she knew shattered. The man's cruel smile faded, surprise etching his features even as chaos erupted around them. "Now you really have nowhere to hide," he said, stepping back, blending into the shadows. The heaviness in the air thickened as Emily realized the true depth of betrayal, confusion clouding her mind. All she felt was fear. Her brother was dying, and in that moment, the world spun, leaving her questioning everything she thought she understood about loyalty, love, and the lengths people would go to keep their secrets safe. And as darkness threatened to claim her again, she felt a flicker of anger ignite inside her. James's face loomed in her vision, panic mixing with desperation. But deep within, a new question lingered. What other truths were hidden in the shadows? What more would she lose before this was all over? Emily's chest felt like it was caving in as she dropped to the ground beside Liam, his face pale and drifting into darkness. "No, Liam, please!" she cried, fingers trembling as they pressed against his wound. The warmth of his blood soaked through her fingers, and panic clawed at her throat. James knelt beside them, eyes wide with horror. "Someone call for help!" he shouted, but no one moved. The chaos in the house seemed to freeze around them, sounds muffled as if they were underway. "Hold on, just hold on for me." She could barely breathe, the weight of fear crushing her heart, but as Liam's hand slipped from hers, his breath faltered. I tried," he whispered, his voice fading. Just then, another loud crash echoed through the room, and dust swirled around them, pressing in on her like a suffocating blanket. The TV in the corner flickered on, static crackling loudly, breaking the tense silence. It suddenly broadcasted a news report. Breaking news. A family linked to an underground syndicate has been charged with crimes, including extortion and illegal trade. Emily's eyes widened, fear turning into pure confusion as she struggled to comprehend the words. What was happening? She looked at James. The shock painted on his face mirrored her own growing terror. "What does this mean?" she whispered. "Liam's family? They're not just in debt. They're involved in something massive," James said, shaking his head in disbelief. "I thought it was just money troubles, not—" But Emily cut him off. "We need to get out of here. We can't stay." Before she could finish, the door burst open and out of the shadows stepped that man in the suit, now flanked by two muscular figures. "It's time to end this," he said, voice dripping with authority. "You've dug too deep, James. You thought you could protect her, but it's too late." "Get away from us!" James shouted, lunging forward, but the men were faster. One grabbing his arms, immobilizing him with a grip like iron. Emily's heart raced. "What do you want?" Fear clung to her words, thick and palpable. "The truth," the man replied, a wicked smile creeping across his face. "About your brother's involvement. And about you, Emily. You're part of this game now." Her mind spun. What does that mean? Suddenly, a loud crash erupted from outside, and the ground shook beneath them. Emily turned just in time to see an armored vehicle screech to a halt in the driveway. Armed officers pouring out. "FBI, put your hands up!" they shouted. The suit man's expression shifted from confidence to disbelief. "No, not now!" He turned to his men, who stood frozen, unsure. James seized the moment. Breaking free from the grip of the larger man. "Run!" he yelled at Emily, eyes fierce and full of desperation. But before they could take a step, the suited man turned back, a glint of metal flashing in his hand. "You think you can escape this? You're all in too deep," he shouted. And with a swift, chilling motion, he pressed down on a button. The crack of gunfire exploded, shattering glass and sending Emily and James tumbling to the floor. "No!" she screamed, looking back toward Liam. He lay there, still, surrounded by chaos, and in that moment, a haunting realization struck her. The betrayal ran deeper than she ever imagined. As the bullets rained down, everything turned to slow motion. James's eyes met hers, and she saw something shift in them. Fear, yes, but a flicker of something else. "Emily!" he shouted, pulling her close, shielding her from the debris. But the truth was, he wasn't just fighting for them. He was fighting for something darker, something hidden behind layers of lies. Then, just as Emily clamped her hands over her ears, trying to drown out the horror surrounding her, she felt another sharp pain, this time not in her heart, but in her side. It came out of nowhere, a jab that knocked the breath from her lungs. She looked down, horrified to see crimson soaking through her shirt. The world spun, darkness creeping in at the edges of her vision. And just like that, everything was shrouded in mystery and dread. All she could think as she collapsed was that the game had changed entirely. What secrets lay buried ahead? How deep did this darkness truly run? And who would be left standing when the dust finally settled? Emily collapsed, the world narrowing as sunlight flickered and darkened. Pain coursed through her side, sharp and burning. Her vision blurred, fear twisting in her stomach. She felt like she was drowning, surrounded by a storm of chaos. Liam lay still. James hovered over him, eyes wide, pleading. "Stay with me, Liam." "Help is coming!" But those words faded against the backdrop of gunfire. The sound bounced around the room like a rattle, creating a cacophony of horror. Emily's heart raced. Everything she thought she knew unraveled before her. "James!" she cried, her voice cracking. "What do we do?" But before he could answer, another explosion erupted. The front door was blown apart, sending wood splinters flying like deadly shards. The FBI agents rushed in, weapons drawn, voices barking orders. It felt like a scene from a movie, not real life. "Freeze! Hands in the air!" one agent shouted, scanning the chaos. Emily felt a momentary flicker of hope. They could be saved. Help had arrived. But James moved past her, urgency flooding his features. "Get away from Liam!" he yelled. He lunged toward the suited man, the one who had caused all this pain. "Stop!" Emily reached for him, but the wail of sirens blared louder, drowning out her words. James and the suited man faced off, raw emotion crackling in the air. Just then Liam stirred, fluttering his eyes open. "Em," he breathed, voice faint. "Liam, stay with me. Help is here," Emily pleaded, tears spilling down her cheeks. But the suited man laughed, a cold, mocking sound that sent chills down her spine. "Help? They're not here for you. They're here for him." He pointed at James, a smirk curling his lips. Suddenly, everything shifted. The atmosphere thickened. An agent stepped forward, gaze steely. "James, you're under arrest for conspiracy and fraud. You've been a part of something much larger than you realized." Emily's heart plummeted. "What? No, you're wrong. He's not a criminal." "His family ties go deep," the agent continued, voice booming, cutting through the confusion. "And you've been dragged into a mess you can't comprehend." James shook his head, desperation mixing with despair. "No, it's not like that. I did it to protect her." But before Emily could respond, the suited man leaned closer, eyes boring into her. "You think you know him? You're just another pawn in this game, Emily. You have no idea how deep the roots of this corruption go." A gut-wrenching thought hit her. "What do you mean?" Then everything spiraled into an impossible twist. Liam struggled to rise, and as he did, he pulled something from his jacket pocket, a small device that blinked ominously, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. "You need to understand, Em." He pressed a button. No one could react. The world blurred into chaos as the sound of a loud explosion erupted from the backyard. Smoke billowed, and the ground shook violently. Emily was thrown back, landing hard as debris rained down. Amid the shrieks and chaos, Liam's voice echoed in her mind. "I tried to protect you, but the truth is darker than you can imagine." The realization clawed at her insides like nails on a chalkboard. The device wasn't just for show. It was part of something bigger. Her brother had been keeping secrets too, dark secrets that intertwined with her own destiny. James's face contorted in horror. "Liam, no! What did you just do?" But then, the shocking truth emerged, flooding the room. As the smoke cleared, a figure appeared, emerging from the haze. Emily's breath caught. It was a woman she recognized, but couldn't place. It was someone she thought was safe, someone she trusted. "Mom?" she whispered, her heart racing. The woman stepped forward, eyes glinting with a mixture of sorrow and resolve. "I'm here to get you both out of this," she said, but her voice held a hidden weight. Every nerve in Emily's body buzzed as the truth unfolded. The presence of the woman, the ties to James's family, all the secrets, it all clicked into place. But then came the real shock that left everyone in the room frozen, in a moment shrouded by chaos. "You're not just in danger because of your brother, Emily," the woman continued. "You're part of this family, connected in ways you never knew." Emily's heart slammed against her ribs, confusion spiraling into dread. "What do you mean?" With a chilling smile, the woman locked eyes with James. "James is your half-brother." And just like that, the ground beneath her shattered, leaving Emily's world crumbling in an instant. Emily's heart raced as her mother's words hung in the air. It was like a thunderclap, shaking her to the core. The revelation felt like ice water in her veins, paralyzing her. She stared at James, searching for a sign that this was some cruel joke, but his face was pale, eyes wide with shock. "What?" he breathed, disbelief shadowing his features. Emily's mind scrambled, reeling at the implications. It felt like a movie plot gone wrong. "This can't be true." But her mother's expression remained steadfast, filled with a painful urgency. You were always meant to know, Emily. I had to protect you from this world, and from him. James flinched at the words, his expression shifting from shock to betrayal. From me? He whispered, almost broken. Their connection, already fragile, now teetered on the edge of destruction. The chaos swirled around them. The FBI officers shouted commands to the suited man, now cornered. But Emily's focus stayed on the truth unraveling before her. A family tangled in secrets, lies that had woven their lives together in unfathomable ways. Then, a sudden crack echoed from the entrance. Glass shattered as a figure emerged into the house, dark and imposing. It was another man, dressed in black, but far more threatening than the one already inside. "Everyone down!" he roared, brandishing a weapon that gleamed ominously. The room shifted from chaos to a breathless silence, tension thick enough to slice. Emily grabbed James, pulling him closer. They huddled in the corner, hearts racing. "What's happening?" "Get away from him, you fool!" the suited man shouted. Panic seeped into his voice. "This is beyond you!" But the new figure stepped forward, eyes fixed on Emily and James. "No one moves!" he commanded, tension radiating like electricity. "The past is catching up, and I'm here to settle the score." Fear pulled in Emily's stomach. She looked at James, desperately trying to gauge his reaction. He looked just as bewildered, casting glances between the two men, as if trying to make sense of a puzzle that made no sense. "Who are you?" she managed, her voice trembling. "What do you want?" "I'm here for what belongs to my family," the man said, eyes narrowing. "James's debts come with a price, and I'm collecting." Suddenly, a rumble filled the air, and the walls of their tiny world shook. From nowhere, an explosion erupted from the back of the house, an immediate deafening blast that sent everyone sprawling. Emily's vision blurred, adrenaline coursing through her veins. A cloud of dust engulfed them, the air thick and choking. She gasped, struggling to breathe. "Emily!" James yelled, scrambling to his feet. He reached for her, but another wave of chaos followed. Men shouting, guns firing. It was absolute pandemonium. Through the smoke, she spotted Liam. He was trying to push through the wreckage, desperately reaching out for her. "Emily, get out!" His voice was strained, breaking through the noise. The man in black turned, but an agent tackled him, shoving him to the ground. A brief struggle ensued, barely visible through the chaos. In that intense moment, she realized something was off. The man in black wasn't just any enemy. He had a power in the room, unshakable authority. She could feel it. Just then, she caught sight of something glinting in the rubble. Another device, blinking ominously. Her breath caught again. "Liam!" she screamed. "Look out!" But it was too late. The crackling noise erupted once more, and in a blinding flash, everything went bright white. When the sensation faded, it left behind echoes of screams and confusion as Emily lay on the floor, disoriented. The echoes grew louder, merging into a cacophony of sounds. And then she noticed it. The suited man was gone. The man in black lay still, but there was something else about him. The fear that racked her body turned into confusion, deepening when she saw a familiar item slip from his pocket as he collapsed. A family photo showing an older version of her mother, standing beside a younger version of the man in black. Reality cracked beneath her. The chaos spun around her, and her grips on her defiance and hope loosened. Each person she had known, each relationship she cradled, suddenly became a question mark. Was he really coming for what belonged to his family? Or was there something even deeper hidden between them all? She looked at James. His expression mirrored her own confusion, uncertainty crackling between them like a live wire. What had just happened? And then, as if time had spun, the air turned murky and heavy with dark secrets. Could Emily trust anyone? Or was everyone wrapped in an intricate maze of threats and betrayal? In an instant, the world shifted again, leaving her desperately craving answers as her thoughts spiraled out of control. She could barely catch her breath, the smoke still clinging to her like a suffocating blanket. James's presence felt like a lifeline, but the shock looming between them stirred darkness she couldn't comprehend. "Stay close," he shouted, eyes darting around the wreckage. Despite everything, she felt his hand grip her tightly. "We need to get out." But as they started to move, the reality of Liam lying on the floor, pale and still, loomed large. Disbelief washed over her. "Liam, please," she called helplessly, but the chaos drowned her words. Then she heard it, a low rumble rising from beneath the floor, a deep vibration that made the hair on the back of her neck stand up. It felt like the earth itself was groaning. "James, what is that?" His eyes widened in panic. "I don't know!" The noise escalated, sending them stumbling as the very foundation seemed to shudder. And then it happened. The ground cracked open with a deafening roar, a fissure splitting the room wide open. Emily screamed, stumbling backward into James. The walls shook and dust filled the air, swirling like a storm. "James!" she cried, grabbing his shirt, trying to stay anchored as chaos unfolded. But suddenly, from the crack, something emerged. A dark figure climbed up, covered in ash and shadows. Emily squinted, heart pounding as the figure rose, towering over them. When the dust cleared, her breath hitched. It was a woman, but not just any woman. It was her mother. The very one who had disappeared when she was a child. "Mom?" Emily's voice broke, disbelief clouding her thoughts. "Is it really you?" Her mother's gaze was fierce, but her eyes shimmered with sadness. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I thought I could keep you safe." "Sin from what?" James yelled, the tension rising. He stepped protectively in front of Emily. "It's complicated," her mother replied, voice heavy. "I didn't want either of you to know about the other. The truth is, I wasn't just running away. I was trying to protect you both from what I've been a part of." "What are you saying?" Emily felt her heart race, something dark and troubling brewing inside her. Before her mother could reply, the suited man groaned, slowly getting to his feet. You were supposed to be gone!" His voice was twisted, laced with fury. "I didn't choose this life," her mother snapped back, as if the confrontation electrified her. "But now it's all colliding and you've put them in danger." Suddenly, everything felt fragile. The air thrummed with tension, and Emily sensed a profound shift in their realities. The man in black stirred once more, confusion swirling around him, eyes darting nervously between James and Emily's mother. The chaos was interrupted by another wave of sirens rising nearby. The sound clamored through the wreckage, and Emily's heart sank. The urgency wrapped tightly around her, reminding her of the flaring danger. "Where do we go?" she asked, fear trembling in her voice. "Get out through the back," her mother shouted, churning with urgency. "We don't have much time." But as they began to move, a harrowing scream sliced through the air. It was Liam. He was still lying there, powerful gasps puncturing the chaos. A rush of dread clutched at Emily's heart. "Liam!" she screamed, but something felt off. Behind her, an explosion erupted amidst the chaos, splinters flying as the men in suits advanced. From the shadows, more figures joined them, faces hard with determination. Emily turned back to her mother, eyes wide. "You did this! You brought us here!" Her mother looked ready to fight, revealing a strength Emily had never seen before. "I did it to protect you." But uncertainty flooded through her veins. In that moment, the bombshell dropped. Emily's mother declared, "You've always been meant to lead this, Emily. You're one of us." Everything flipped upside down. The room spun. "One of us? What does that even mean?" Emily stammered, confusion blanketing her mind like smoke. "The legacy is yours, not just mine," her mother shouted. "And now it's all falling apart." Just when hope started to flicker, a deafening crash shattered the air, and the wall crumbled around them. Dust and debris poured in, and Emily was thrown to the ground. "Something has to change," she heard her mother scream over the chaos, but Emily didn't catch the meaning behind the words. When she managed to look up again, a figure stood in the doorway. It was cloaked in shadows, tall and commanding. "The time's up," it said in a voice low and threatening. In that instant, everything came flooding back. Betrayal, secrets, bloodlines. It felt like the world was coming apart, and all that poured out was uncertainty. Emily's hands shook, confusion and fear mixing together. Who could she trust when the very people she thought she knew were intertwined in darkness? Emotions roiled like a river crashing against rocks, threatening to drown her with every pulse. Then the figure continued, "And you will have to choose, Emily," pointing directly at her. "You only have one chance. Choose wisely." The weight of the moment pressed down on her. Her world narrowed to that one question. Who did she truly want to become? And as the air thickened with dread, she understood T. Emily's heart hammered in her chest as she faced her mother. The walls closing in, the tension crackling like electricity. The air was thick with confusion, secrets spiraling, her mind racing to comprehend the truth. James stood at her side, every muscle tense, eyes darting between her mother and the shadowy figure in the doorway. It felt like time had stopped. "What do you mean, I'm part of this?" Emily demanded, her voice shaking but fierce. "I don't want this life." Her mother's gaze softened, but there was fear in her eyes. "You don't understand, Emily. This world, it's in your blood. You're destined to lead." Emily's stomach twisted. Destined to what? Live in this mess? "I was trying to protect you," her mother replied, but the weight of the admission hung heavy. The noise outside grew louder, police sirens blaring in the distance, cutting through the chaos inside. Everything felt urgent, overwhelming, as the walls seemed to tremble around them. And then, the man in black shifted, rising slowly to his feet, brushing debris off his suit. "This is far from over," he intoned, voice low and booming. "You think you can choose your fate?" "No!" James stepped forward, defiance igniting his eyes. "We're not playing your games anymore." But before anyone could react, the sound of gunfire erupted from the doorway. Emily's heart dropped as the suited men stormed in, faces twisted with fury, chaos erupting once more. "Get down!" Emily screamed, pushing herself and James to the side, as shots rang out, shattering whatever hope they had left. A blur of action surrounded them, and shards of wood flew in the air like confetti around them. "Mom!" Emily cried. She turned, but her mother was gone. Dread clutched at her throat. "Stay with me!" James pleaded, gripping her arm, trying to pull her back from the edge of panic. But the world felt unreal, warping into a nightmare. And then, in the thick of it all, a sudden realization struck Emily like a lightning bolt. She looked up and saw the figure of the man in black, his face illuminated by the dim light, a knowing smirk curling his lips. "Did you really think it was a coincidence?" he sneered, stepping closer. "What do you mean?" she gasped, fear rushing within her. As if sensing her confusion, he drew out a small silver pendant from his pocket, gleaming under the flickering light. "This belonged to your father, the one you never knew." My chest felt heavy and cold as the words sank in. He wasn't just your father. He was a powerful leader in this world. And now, so are you. A shot of ice flowed through her veins. No, it can't be. Welcome to the family legacy, Emily, he said smoothly. Everything's falling into place. Everything in her world tilted. This was more than a secret. It was a bomb dropped in her life. She felt the breath leave her lungs. Anger surged. You're lying! But he laughed, low and menacing. Am I? You think this is just a game? Your mother tried to shield you, but the truth is spilling out, whether you like it or not. Just then, the lights flickered, casting shadows across the room. The chaos intensified, and Emily felt like she was caught in a storm with no way out. James! She shouted, fear and desperation flooding her voice. Is this true? Before he could answer, the cracked walls trembled again. Amidst the chaos exploding around them, a sudden pulse vibrated through the floor. The ground beneath them began to quake violently. And then, with no warning, the ceiling above them caved in, dust and debris crashing down. Run! James shouted, pulling Emily toward the back door, adrenaline surging through him. The scene was surreal. A massive fleet of unmarked black SUVs pulled up, surrounded by agents in tactical gear. Their faces grim, eyes scanning for threats. We're too late, one agent shouted. Secure the perimeter! And then, boom, an explosion rang out, echoing like thunder. Everything seemed to flash for an instant, a whirlwind of chaos surrounding them. Suddenly, at the epicenter of the blast, Emily felt the force push her to the ground, darkness threatening to consume her. In those fleeting seconds before the world faded, an image burned into her mind. The pendant in the man's hand, the cold gaze in his eyes, and the undeniable truth that her life now hung by a thread. She blacked out, everything vanishing into shadows, leaving behind only questions that would haunt her. What was the legacy? Who was really on her side? And what price would she have to pay for the truth?